only frogman to ever go through Hell Week 4 times?
Yes. Don't believe the lies that your mind tells you. Don't believe the lies that other people tell you. We choose who we are, day by day, moment by moment.
Hey y'all, it's Stefan with the Patriot Point Show. I'm here with my good friend Randy Rozzell. Today we're going to be talking about mental toughness. Randy has a book coming out called Pressing Forward here. He believes, and I believe as well, just from what I've looked at, you're the only frogman to ever go through Hell Week 4 times,
Yes.
right? And that just speaks to Randy's unwavering perseverance. And there's a portion of the book here that I would just like to read really quick. This is chapter 13, the first few sentences, it says, "Monkey brain. There is something that I want to mention to you that helped me get through Hell Week and all of the other challenging things in life that I have gone through. It's realizing that the first thing that pops into our head when going through something tough is usually negative and defeatist. We call this our monkey brain." So yeah, could you just talk to me a little bit about the monkey brain and kind of...
Yeah. Well, we were talking earlier and you mentioned a little bit about like you've heard of lizard brain, right? Well, lizard brain is different, right? Your lizard brain is kind of the instincts that you fall back to when you're under stress, right? So, and we, they say, like our brains evolved as humans, right? We have a lizard brain and then we have our human brain. And the lizard brain is what we fall back to, right? When we're under stress and we have to think through that lizard brain. The monkey brain is something different. The monkey brain is those thoughts that you can have when you go through something challenging, right? It's the thought that you have when you don't feel like going to jiu-jitsu practice, right? You're like, oh, I'm tired, right? Oh, my knee hurts today. Oh, my back hurts today. Oh, so-and-so is going to be there and they're going to be a challenge. And I don't feel like getting my butt kicked by them today or being underneath them, right? So it's all kind of the defeatist talk. And I think it's important to give it a name. Well, that's just my monkey brain. All right. What does your monkey brain do? Well, it tries to protect you a little bit like your lizard brain, but it protects you from suffering, from hardship, right? It tells you that, okay, when I'm going through something physically challenging like Hell Week or like the cold, you can't keep doing it because it wants to protect your body.
Mhm.
Well, you know, it's there to save you, but it also makes you weak, right? So I called it, listening to the idle chatter of monkeys, right? People that'll tell you you can't do something, right? That you couldn't be a world champion, right? That I couldn't make it through Hell Week, that I would never become a SEAL. That is the idle chatter of monkeys. Well, it's also here too. There's monkeys in here too. And that's why I called it the monkey brain. And realizing that that's not who you are, that we can't control those random negative thoughts that come into our head, right? Giving it that name, that monkey brain, we choose who we are, day by day, moment by moment. What am I going to listen to? Was it going to be the monkey brain? Is it going to be the defeatist stuff? Or is it going to be that second voice that I talk about there in the book, right? Um, you know, another friend asked me about some mindset stuff and another podcast. And, I talked a little bit about pain. Life is pain. We're always going to be in pain, but there's two types of pain, right? There's the physical pain that you're going through now, and then there's the pain of regret.
100%.
What pain are you going to choose? Which one lasts longer? I said when I'm going through Hell Week or I was going through buds, my back hurt, my neck hurt, my knee hurt, my shoulders hurt. I was cold. I was freezing. I had sand in places I didn't even know I had on my body, and it was wearing my skin off. I still have scars from my Hell Weeks. I wear those scars as a badge of honor. What pain are you going to choose? The pain to keep going,
And the pain of defeat, right?
or the pain of defeat and the pain of regret? And I've had both of those pains in my life. You know, as you said, I didn't make it through my first Hell Weeks. I went into Hell Week 4 times. I only completed it once. I would love to have completed it my first time. I didn't want to keep going back. I couldn't live with the pain of regret. I couldn't live with that knife in my heart. And as I said before, each time I had to go back, my heart was still on that beach in the sand in Coronado, and I had to go get it. That is a different type of pain, and I didn't want to live with the pain of what could have been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I'd much rather live with physical pain.
Yeah.
You know, I would much rather earn my sleep, earn the warmth. You know, even now, if, you know, I'm at the gym now, and this is what I'm talking about. Like, people are like, oh, you're a Navy SEAL, you must be, you know, mentally tougher and, you know, and physically stronger than most of these people out there. It's still a daily choice. It's still a moment by moment choice. I don't feel like going to jiu-jitsu practice half the time. I never really feel like it, right? Some days I wake up and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to, you know, especially if I had a good practice the day before, but then I'll go and I'll have a rough one.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I've got quite a few ailments. You know, I just had a total hip replacement surgery. I've had inguinal hernia surgeries. My back and my neck almost always hurt. My shoulders almost always hurt. But sitting at home and not going to practice, like that pain at the end of the day when I could have gone and I chose not to, that's a horrible pain. I hate that pain.
It's way worse.
I hate that feeling.
It's way worse. Yeah.
I'd rather go. Like today I was working out and I had to do legs. And 6 weeks ago I had total hip replacement surgery. It hurts to do legs. It still doesn't feel good. My doctor told me not to, but you know, he doesn't know the kind of man I am.
Yeah.
You know, I ended up doing 225 for 20 reps. They all hurt.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
You know what didn't hurt? My heart, because I didn't skip the workout.
Yeah.
You know,
For sure.
so these are things that, you know, I talk about the monkey brain. Don't listen to that. I mean, it's different when you're legitimately hurt, you know, to skip training and recover. You know, there is, you know, a certain amount of, you know, intelligence,
For sure.
do you need to have that? But when it's just laziness, you know, when people talk about discipline a lot, you know, Jocko, discipline equals freedom, and, you know, and, you know, Goggins and these motivators out there, there's a commitment, right? And you have to be committed. A commitment will cost you. It will cost you time. It will cost you friends. It will cost you money.
Mm-hmm.
It will cost you going out and having fun and drinking and all that. You know what else it'll cost you? A life of mediocrity.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great trade-off. Yeah, so it's the discipline that gets you up and going, but it's the commitment that lets you keep doing it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. The discipline will run out eventually.
Right? And you know this is a world.
Not the discipline, but the motivation will run out eventually.
Yeah,
You'll have the days, but it's that discipline that keep.
Motivation is a feeling.
Yep.
Discipline is a choice.
It's a decision. Yeah.
Commitment is the grind.
Yep.
You know, it's the things that you give up to not be like everyone else out there.
Yeah.
Just simply gives up. It's the choice. You know, I think there's some lies out there that we can believe. One is, you know, there's a saying in Buzz called once a quitter, always a quitter. That's a lie. I quit twice. When I was in rollback land after I got hurt. I talk about it in my book. And it's only true if you believe that. I chose not to believe that. You know, it doesn't mean you can't fail. It doesn't mean that you sometimes won't let yourself down. All right. So for those of you that have quit something hard in the past or gave up on yourself or quit on your dreams, just because you quit once doesn't mean you have to keep quitting.
It's a decision.
Right? It's a decision. There's a decision to quit and there's a decision to start over.
Yeah, I always like sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
But I always like the best time to start or not quit was the last year or the year before, but the second best time is now.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes you don't look up until you're flat on your back. You know, sometimes some of us don't look up to God until he's allowed us to get flat on our back. Right. But that is a lie. I prove that, once a quitter, always a quitter is a lie. It's only true if you believe it. The other lie is it's not that simple. No, it is that simple. It may not be that easy, but it's that simple. Keep going. Keep pressing forward. It is a choice. It is a simple choice to make. May not be easy to stick with it. All right. But the phrase, it's not that simple. Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You want to stop smoking?
Just stop.
Stop. Put that pack down. You want to lose weight? Stop putting crap in your mouth. Right?
Yeah,
it's simple. I've lost weight so many different ways. Right? I've lost weight when I ate 6 small meals a day. I've lost weight when I went on a warrior diet, which was like 1 meal a day. Right? I've lost weight when I've done intermittent fasting. You know what the key was to all of it? I've gained muscle on several different workouts. The key was committing to them. You know what? They all worked. The key was a commitment.
Yeah, people stop.
People stop.
Yeah, they usually just shy from the goal, right?
And this is something very important too. Preparation. We talked about it last time. You talked about like your 6 months before. When it's easy to not quit? When you're prepared. When you've put in the work. When that year or years, or for you, a training camp, but you've still been training for years, in jiu-jitsu. For me, I've been training for years in jiu-jitsu. It's the months ahead of time. For me, it took me the Hell Week, when I was successful, my 3rd Hell Week was very different. I got psyched. You can't help getting hurt, right? There's nothing about that. And I did get injured, but the first 2, I quit after I got injured for certain reasons. It's in my book. You can read about that. But I had to climb back in the saddle afterwards. My 3rd one, I didn't quit after I got hurt. Why? Well, everything before that Hell Week, I crushed. I was so prepared, right? Before the Hell Weeks before, I wasn't passing my runs. I was too heavy and too muscular. My 2nd Hell Week I went into, I was passing my runs, I was passing my swims, not my runs. My 3rd Hell Week, I passed everything up into Hell Week. There was no reason to go away. I took every excuse to quit to go away.
That's powerful.
There was
no reason. It was just going to be
reason. And what was my goal? To become a SEAL. Well, where was I at? Well, right in the place to become a SEAL. So there's no reason to go away. I took every excuse away. And the year ahead of time, I went from 215 pounds. I'm a pretty muscular guy. I put on weight. I put on muscle fairly easy. And I was 215 pounds. I went from 215 to 175. I lost 30 pounds. I lost muscle. But to make it through those soft sand runs, I couldn't
be as heavy as
I couldn't be a meathead, right? I used to say, girls like muscles. Soft sand runs do not.
Yeah.
Swimming in the ocean, right? I had to, my whole life I'd been a meathead. Well, I had to completely change my body. I went from 215 to 175. I looked like a triathlete.
Yeah. For sure.
I was ready for my Men's Health cover shoot for sure by then, right?
All
I
abs.
was all abs and everything. But I completely lifted weights except for the one-arm power cleans and dumbbells overhead. So I knew I had to be strong for the boats and the logs to hold them over my head. So I still did a lot of static holds of weight and a lot of one-arm power cleans and presses overhead. Other than that, everything else, I didn't lift weights on anything else. I did a lot of calisthenics, a lot of lunges, but I ran every single day. It was my weakness. It was my biggest weakness at Buds. So I made myself do it every single day. I read books on running, right? I played football. I ran everywhere like a linebacker. Well, you can't run through 4 miles of soft sand runs, and we did more for the training runs like a linebacker.
What's the time they want you to have on those?
It's each phase gets lower. So the first phase is 32 minutes. The second phase 31, third phase 30. Now you're like, an 8-minute mile, that doesn't sound that fast. Well, you got to remember, you're in pants, you're in boots and a t-shirt. You're not in tennis shoe shorts, and you're on sand. So it's very
Totally
different. So you better be running at least a 7-minute mile to be able to pass when you're dressed that way. And part of it's on, sometimes you get some hard pack, sometimes it's in soft sand, right? And it varies in between the both, right? Sometimes they make you get wet and sandy before you got to pass those runs. So now you're soaking wet, and your boots are soaking wet, and you're covering in sand, right?
Yeah,
So you don't think that does something to someone mentally?
for sure. Yeah,
You know,
psychological impact.
Man, I'd love to be, I wish I'd got 8 hours sleep and had proper nutrition and all this other stuff before. And that's the biggest grind.
It's the weight loss and the
Yeah, well,
food.
it's a lack of sleep, because there's way lack of sleep before Hell Week. You're eating crappy Navy chow, right? Which is not really nutritional. They boil all the vitamins and nutrients out of it. Or you're eating MREs, and nobody's there to hold your hand. A lot of college athletes, or high school athletes, they've been told we've had Olympic caliber athletes go through Buzz and not make it. Why? Well, they were treated like pro athletes. We've had pro athletes not make it. Why? They had the physical abilities. Anybody that walks through the door at NSW to be a SEAL has got the physical abilities to make it. They're studs. They've been selected through all kinds of other people to be there. You walk through the door, you're pretty much a physical specimen. Well, they've never been cold. Not for that many days in a row. And back in, they've never had anybody tell them they were pieces of shit, and they sucked. They've always been told how great they are, right? They've had enough sleep at night. They've been treated like amazing athletes, and built up. And nobody's there to tell you how good you are. They're there to tell you how much you suck. It's not fair too, right? The grind keeps going. Things can be hard in a training camp. Well, how long is training camp?
Yeah.
This is 6 months. You're cold, wet, sandy, miserable every day. Every day you're almost pushed to your physical max. You're not getting the recovery. You're not getting 8 hours sleep.
No way. Yeah.
These are normal weeks, not just Hell Week. And that's what a lot of people don't really realize is you go through hell to get to Hell Week. You lose half your quitters on the way. You just lose your other half during. It's
What's after Hell Week? It's once you complete Hell Week.
Well, you've got more a first phase to complete where you learn hydro reconnaissance and some other skills like that. And then you go on to second phase. I think second phase is the best kept secret. I think if we started with second phase, we'd actually have more quitters. Yeah. Second phase is horrible.
What is it?
It's the dive phase where you do everything. Majority of second phase until you make it through bull comp, you've got 2080 dive tanks on your back. Well, these things weigh 70 pounds. And the straps are like inch nylon, right? So you're dropped for push-ups with these things. You got to run with these things sometimes, right? They put scars in you too and wear through your skin and everything else.
Yeah.
And you got to pass through pool comp. And pool comp is, when they literally beat the crap out of you underwater and tie your arrows in knots and everything you do is on a breath hold,
Yeah, is that where you hear the stories of guys passing out in the water and things like
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I mean, guys pass out all the time for different evolutions, right? I mean, during first phase, you got to do a 50-meter underwater swim. Well, doesn't sound that bad, but you jump off, you have to do a front flip. You can't touch the wall. So you start from a dead start after you jumped in the water, did a front flip underneath the water, then you start.
Wow, that sucks.
Now, when you turn around to 25, you got to touch the wall at the 25. You can push off the wall then, come back, you got to touch the wall again and come up.
How long is that breath hold?
I mean, everybody swims at different paces, right? So it's really only 45 seconds to a minute, but you're swimming. That front flip is what messes with people. During pool comp, my first pool comp, I held my breath for over 3 minutes. The only reason I know is because the instructor was like, Rozelle, you just held your breath for 3 minutes. I was like, I did? He was like, yeah, that was awesome. I was like, wow, holy crap. That was cool. 3 minutes. Didn't know I could hold my breath for 3 minutes. I was just so thinking about doing everything right and not failing, you know. It's not like I hadn't been timing myself, you know.
Wow.
So
That's incredible.
yeah, well, he was impressed too. I mean, I wasn't trying to. I had no clue.
What's third phase?
Third phase is land warfare, right? And that's where we learn we start to put our shooting, that's where we learn to shoot. That's where we learn to do demolition. All right. And we start to learn basic infantry movements of like what a Marine Corps rifle company or Army rifle company would do. So, you know, instead of pairs there, right, we start to learn to work in fire teams. Okay. Right. And squads and then even a platoon. Right. So we start to put all these things together. We go out to San Clemente Island. Before then, we have a week in land nav, which is pretty cool. That's right. But you're by yourself during land nav, which is awesome because you're finally not with the swim. But for me, it was awesome because I was my Buds class LPO, so I was in charge of my Buds class. So I always had to be sure that the whole class was at the right evolution, at the right time, with the right way, right attitude, squared away, right. And finally, we got to the land nav portion, and I'm like, I'm not in charge of all these other people. I'm just in charge of me. Well, this is awesome. And I used to teach land nav when I was attached with the Marines, so I didn't have any problems finding my points. So
a little more rest there.
Yeah, so this is great. I'm like, oh, finally. I'm not running. I'm not wet and sandy.
Yeah.
I don't have a boat on my head. I don't have a log on my head. I'm not carrying a log and lunching a log down the beach. You know, I don't have 2080s on my back. I've just got this rucksack with like, you know, a radio and MREs. Like, stuff ain't so bad.
When y'all are carrying the logs of the boats, are they on top of your head or are they shoulder pressed over?
Both.
Okay.
Both. So we press the boats up over our head. But the majority of the time, like you can see in this picture on the book, we're running with them on our heads.
Okay.
It's awful.
How heavy are they?
The boats they're either 225 or 300, somewhere between there. I can't quite remember. So it is divided up, but there's definitely, so this is me here actually on the cover, right? And there's different positions in the boat. The number 2 man, that's me running at number 2, carries the most weight because it's right in the middle of the boat. It's kind of shaped a little concave like, right? So number 1 kind of sets the pace, kind of drives from number 3. The coxswain's in the back if you're lucky to have 7 people in your boat crew. So it alternates through between you have 6 or 7, just depending how many students are in the class. And number 2 carries the most weight. Number 2 is the worst position. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Do y'all switch off and things like that, or?
We try to best you can, but you know, sometimes you just end up there. I could have been coxswain a lot of times because I was a senior enlisted guy in my class, but I always chose number 2.
Yeah. Lean by example.
It's the guys tend to love you for it.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably why I've, you know, got the back and neck problems I do now, but and going through it that many times, right? So, but when it comes to the mindset, don't believe the lies. Don't believe the lies that your mind tells you. Don't believe the lies that other people tell you. Have your truth and stick to it. You know, I used to say to myself a lot of times, don't let the weakness win. Don't let the weakness win. And then, you know, it's different with, like, you and I are self-motivated now, right? Like, you don't feel like you're letting down a team. I'll tell you who you let down though, right? You let down, not only do you let down yourself when you quit or when you give up on your dreams, you let down who you're going to be in the future.
That future self.
Your future self, right? You let down, like, your family. You let down your kids, and this is what I'm talking about with the future self. Had I not become a SEAL, I would have robbed my family of the man I am now. I would have stolen that from them.
Mm-hmm.
No way would I do that.
Yeah, that's a great outlook. That's a great outlook.
By not quitting and never giving up on my dreams, I didn't rob people of the man I was supposed to become.
Where do you think you got that mindset from?
I don't know. I think some of us are born with it. My dad told me I was always a bit of a fighter. Um, so I was born 3 months premature in 1975.
Mm.
And I was born on Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, Texas. And I had all these health problems, right? At first, I was supposed to die. Then I wasn't supposed to be able to walk. Then I was supposed to be retarded. And my big joke is, hey, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, you know? But they had to fly me to Laughlin Air Force Base because that's where they had the NICU and all the facilities to take care of me. So I spent my first 8 months of life in NICU. I was born, I was 2 pounds, 3 ounces. The family that had me, my biological parents, there's like a whole sort of ordeal there. My mother had my dad, or her husband was an Air Force enlisted man. And they had kids, and he was off deployed somewhere. I assume Vietnam because of the time frame, but I don't know that 100%. Had cheated on him with an Air Force officer. So this is why some of this kind of got swept under and everything else. And so she got pregnant with me, and the enlisted man came home and was like, well, the only way I'm going to stay with you is if we get rid of this kid. So luckily, she didn't abort me. They put me up for adoption. So I didn't find this out till way later in life.
How old were you when you found out?
I knew I was adopted at like 6 or 7 years old. My mom told me because she said she would always know. I just didn't know all the sort of details until I was 20. My little brother, he was adopted too, and he had found his biological parents. And at first it was like a good deal. Like he was able to like fill this hole that he'd had at him. And so I was like, maybe I'll try to find my biological parents. My mother's father broke it to me gently by going, what are you going to do? Break up a happy family? I was like, what? And so he kind of told me everything. And then I asked my dad, I was like, Dad, is all that true? And he was like, yeah, that's pretty true. That's pretty much the story.
Yeah.
So I was like, I never decided to find them because I didn't want to bring, had they, who knows if they were still together, but
Yeah.
if they were, I didn't want to be that sore subject, right? That point of friction in their marriage. So I never searched for them again. But my dad said I was always a fighter, right? So he kind of thinks since I went through that at a very young age, it kind of made me resilient in a different way. And then my childhood wasn't like the greatest. I ended up running away from home when I was 14. So I was, I'd gone through some adversity. I'd gone through like a bit of a forging process, in a way to make me resilient. So I may not have had the best parents in the world, and I'm not talking about my biological ones, I'm talking about my adopted ones. But what I went through hardened me and made me resilient and made me tough. So I think kind of that mindset, and my friends will even tell you, they're like, one guy I connected with after I'd become a SEAL, and I retired because I never told anybody I was a SEAL from back home until after I retired from the military. So the only people that knew my dad. I told my grandparents on my dad's side, but, they had no clue what a SEAL was. Like, oh, cool, you work with SEALs? That's neat.
Yeah.
I didn't know the Navy would let you work with SEALs. And I'm like, and they thought the animals, right? And I was like, oh, yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah.
So they were just kind of clueless. They had no clue what a Navy SEAL meant. And my dad, he didn't want me to become a SEAL. he tried to talk me out of it several times, especially when I kept getting hurt. He's like, maybe this is just not for you, Randy. You know, I was already a medic and everything. So he's like, why don't you go to PA school? Or why don't you become a doctor? Or why don't you do this? There's all these other things. And I was like, no, I know I'm meant for this. And for like our listeners, when you know you're meant for something and different things will come along and knock you out of the saddle, that's when you're tested the most, right? When those you love tell you you're not meant for something and that you should just do something else, these are all tests. These are the tests that test your intestinal fortitude. How bad do you want it? Will you listen to that idle chatter of monkeys? Will you listen to that monkey brain? Or will you have a decided heart and keep going? Right? And this is what forms our character, right? What we choose. So it's funny, once I finally became a SEAL, I flew my dad out to my graduation and he got to see Naval Special Warfare Center. And he listened to like the admirals talk, about our graduation and how much training we had and how many rounds we shot and all of a sudden, miles we swam and miles we ran and all that stuff. And he was like, Randy, I get it now. He's like, I get why you wanted to be part of this. And I'm like, yeah, you still don't really get it, but it's easier for you to see now. And so that's kind of my story on becoming a SEAL, kind of that forging process and the mental attitude that it takes to keep going back. It is that simple. Don't believe the lies. It's not that simple. It is that simple. You choose it. It may not be easy. Nothing worthwhile ever is.
Yeah, it was just that choice and that follow through.
Yeah, like you chose to go to BJJ practice every day.
Yeah.
Me too. Or
Yeah, for sure.
black belts. But you kept choosing it, and that's what enabled you to become a champion. I kept choosing it, and that's what enabled me to become a Navy SEAL. I got to go on and have a great career in the SEAL teams. And there's some people here that wouldn't be here today had I not made that choice, right? I was able to save some lives.
No, you probably don't even know how many lives you saved, really.
Yeah.
Over there,
Yeah. And I would have robbed them of that. Had I just...
Yeah. You quitting on yourself would have quit on them in essence.
Exactly. So I think, for people listening that want to keep chasing their dreams and want to not quit and be that person, whether it comes to workouts or whatever, don't rob yourself of who you can be. Don't steal that. Don't steal that from your family. Don't steal that from your future generations.
Yeah, for sure. And I almost think it's like your own like reputation in your mind of yourself. Like the more hard things you go through, that forges, you start stacking undeniable proof of what you can do.
Yeah.
Sometimes like I'll have a hard moment in a tournament, training, whatever, personal, whatever, and I'll be like, well, I've done this. Like I remember when I was in college, they used to always like compete like on Thursdays or Fridays. Pardon me. And I'd come back and be in class like Monday, through Thursday or whatever. And I had some public speaking that I had to do in school, and I was pretty nervous. I was like, man, I just won a world title though, like 3 days ago or 2 days ago. Like this is easy. I can do this. Like,
Yeah.
I can go up in front of these people. Like,
Yeah.
I just did something way more difficult.
Yeah.
That actually matters to me. And so that was always a good feeling. But I'm sure you're the same thing. Like, post military, anything you want to do, you're like, well, I've already done some of the most difficult things that anyone can do, so I can do this.
Oh, yeah. And each time you make it through something like that, you just become stronger. And then when you start to go through something difficult again, just like you're talking about, you remind yourself, look what I've done.
Yeah, point of reference.
Look what I've done. This is nothing compared to that. Like, I'm trying to build a business now. Like, well, what is that compared to Hell Week? Nothing. Right? So, what is it going home and being tired after, I taught private lessons all day and then went to jiu-jitsu practice and worked out to get on the computer and try to give myself a better life that way and study that way. Well, it's nothing. That's easy. That's simple. Why not do it?
Yeah, I feel the same way. say job interviews or whatever else. I'm like, this is not difficult. These guys are trying to rip my head off,
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. You don't have some 260-pound black belt trying to separate your head from your shoulders like you're talking about, or pull your arm out of socket, or, or rip your foot from your leg.
Yeah. Or on your arm.
Yeah. So, yeah, when you put it in those perspectives, you're like, yeah, okay, I got this.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just stacking the undeniable proof of who you are and what you do, and it compounds, right?
Yeah. So, mindset, what would I wrap it up with? Don't believe the lies.
Mm-hmm.
Don't listen to your monkey brain. Give it a name. Know it's defeatist. Listen to the truth.
Yep.
What is the truth? Guess what? We're all human. We're capable of failing. We're capable of defeat. And we're capable of amazing success.
Mm-hmm.
When we choose it, when we're willing to commit and stick with it.
For sure. Thank you, Randy. Again, guys, Randy's book, Pressing Forward, Unrelenting Perseverance. It's coming out in the next short weeks. It's a quick read. Definitely worth it. He's also got an audiobook coming out on Audible as well that you read yourself, so that's pretty cool. I always say Randy has a voice fit for radio, so should be a good listen.
Yeah, and a face fit for radio as well.
Exactly. Same here. Sorry, guys. Just turn off the camera here. Just do the audio listen. But yeah, guys. Check it out. Hit us up with any questions you have or anything like that. We'll be releasing these episodes weekly, so just send it to your friends, share it. If it's providing you some value, send it to those close to you. And anything you want to add?
No, thanks for listening.
Cool. Thank you guys. It's the Patriot Point Show.